Alrighty, so I'm gonna take the time to weigh in on the that ain't a fishing kayak discussion. It's been raging since we got sit on tops because the sit inside crowd said that ain't a kayak, and then when we went from sit on tops that you sat on and you were contacting the boat to frame seats, the purist crowd, well, the one notch up from purist crowd said that's not a real kayak. You sit on a kayak. So we evolved one away from sit in the kayak to sit on the kayak. And then when pedal drives got introduced, it was, that's not a kayak. You don't pedal a kayak. And then once pedal drives were kind of the norm, pedal drives got bigger and wider. And then people wanted to start putting motors on the boats pretty aggressively because there was a big resistance against it for a long time. And then kind of the floodgate opened, and now that was kind of more acceptable. And then now, because a boat comes out that looks bigger on video, that none of the people in the comment section have ever even seen or touched for the most part, the raging debate again over the XTR 130 is that's not a fishing kayak. Well, it's not the widest fishing kayak on the market. It's not even in the top 5 widest. It's not the biggest because it's not the longest, and so it is an interesting discussion though. And I'll be honest with you, I've kind of been stoking the flames because I just like to create additional engagement and additional reach for the concept, but I want to try to at least make this video so that in the future, instead of having to type it out, I can just drop the link to this video, and maybe so can you, to respond to the constant barrage of the clowns that jump in and say, that ain't a fishing kayak. This is what a fishing kayak is. Well, for one, they say not a kayak. Actually, they don't say fishing kayak. They say that's not a kayak. You're right. It's not a kayak. It is a fishing kayak. Okay. And just like in the world of vehicles, you have sports cars, sport utility vehicles, you have off-road, on-road, you have electric, you have, cargo, freight, delivery. You have a vehicle. And all different categories of vehicles, right? Nobody says because something gets so big, that's not a vehicle anymore. That's I don't know. It's just a different type of vehicle. It's a cargo vehicle. It's a delivery vehicle. It's I don't know, right? So look at an 18-wheeler versus a smart car. They're just categories of that. And so for me, we created a new category of kayak 30 years ago called a fishing kayak. By and large, none of us as kayak anglers, or maybe a small percentage, are actually kayakers. We're not pulling on a skirt, put on a nose plug, wearing a helmet, and, doing that type of kayak fishing. We're not rolling our kayak over to do an Eskimo roll or whatever the acceptable term is these days. We're not kayakers. We're fishermen who do it from a kayak, and we do it from fishing kayaks. So yes, it's not a kayak. It's a fishing kayak. It's just like the different classes and categories of automobiles. It's the best analogy that I can come up with. And then the argument that is, oh, it's not a kayak, it's a boat. Well, I hate to break it to the people out there that are trying to die on that hill, but every kayak is a boat. Just look up the definition of a boat. It is a watercraft that is propelled by a paddle, pedals, or a motor, right? That's what a boat is. So every kayak is actually a boat, but not every boat is a kayak. So I'm not trying to come in and say I'm going to settle the debate. I'm just letting you know when I call something a fishing kayak, I'm not calling it a kayak. So when you respond, that's not a kayak, you're kind of agreeing with me. Because again, I'm not a kayaker. I'm a kayak angler. I don't use kayaks. I use fishing kayaks. So it's a different category, and that category's definition has broadened and it has expanded to what we have now. At some point, does something become a new category? Possibly. But when it becomes that new category, or when it crosses over into a new category, it'll be clear that it's in that category. Like saying something's a John boat because it's bigger than the other kayak you're used to doesn't make it a John boat, right? If I teach a duck to bark, it don't make it a dog. So they're not plastic John boats, because that's not what a John boat is. And the size and the length doesn't determine whether or not it's a kayak, because there's 17 and 18 foot sea kayaks, which are super long. And so unless you're trying to lobby for a max length or a max width or something, it's a silly argument. I do appreciate the extra comments, the extra engagement, all of the extra that comes from it. But I just wanted to share my opinion in a video format, so that I had a link I can drop, and two, they understand I'm not out here fighting to redefine a kayak. We have already redefined a category called fishing kayak. And because of that, that really means there's no debate. I'm not arguing with you. We, as a kayak fishing community, we're not arguing with you. When you say that's not a kayak, we agree. Never have claimed it to be a kayak. Never claimed to be a kayaker. I've been a kayak angler, kayak fisherman, kayak bass fisherman from the beginning. Never claimed to be a kayaker. Don't plan on being a kayaker. Yes, I do go kayaking sometimes, but I also throw a baseball. Don't make me a baseball player. So again, I'm not a kayaker. Most of you guys are not kayakers. I'm not, again, expecting to roll a grenade into the room and it be over. I do want to encourage those of you that think that it's not a kayak to keep commenting, because that helps spread the word. It helps wave the flag. It helps increase the engagement, and it helps with the algorithm. So I'll finish with this. Yes, the XTR 130, the Titan X, the Hobie Pro Angler, the New Canoe Unlimited, and many more are not kayaks. That's because they're fishing kayaks.